Dear Scare Mail. My grandfather grew up on a ranch in Utah in the 1960s, so this isn't really my story, it's his. That being said, I just want to say that my grandfather was never known to be a liar. On the contrary, he was an honorable, hard-working man, the best man I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. So, the thought of this story being true keeps me up at night. I'll tell you the story just as he once told it to me a long time ago. So, here it goes. I woke up just like any other day on the ranch, got myself dressed and walked on downstairs for breakfast with my folks. I remember the look on my dad's face. He didn't look too happy. I wasn't sure if he was mad or not that I slept in another 15 minutes, so I just kept quiet. But then I got a good look at him. He was anxious about something. My old man never really showed emotion, so I figured it could be something more. Your ma and I gotta make a drive to Salt Lake City for a couple nights. Take care of some things, he said. You'll have to run the show for a couple days, alright? I made sure he knew it was no problem, and for the most part, it wasn't. I was 17 at the time, nearly done high school, and felt like I had a handle on everything. But something had been going on the last few days, and it may have been spooking my folks, much like it was spooking me. You see, the horses had been acting up at night. We weren't really sure what was the cause of it. That is, until my pa and I found something gravely concerning. Something had busted the side door to our stable and gave the horses a good spook. Ever since, the night was their most unsettled time of the day. So, it was looking like I was gonna have to fix up that door on top of fending off whatever was giving them trouble. Even so, I made sure they knew it was no problem. I'd handle it. Before my ma and pa hit the road, my dad looked at me one more time before he hopped in his truck. And son, he said, whatever you do, don't go outside at night. Just leave it be, whatever it is. I nodded in agreement, although I wasn't so sure I'd keep the promise. The dogs could help me fend off any wolves. If it wasn't enough, my hunting rifle could sure do the trick. Man, I was a dumb kid, 'cause I really didn't know what was out there when night fell. I had just finished eating some leftover food in the fridge my ma had left me. Everything was going pretty good. I had patched the door up that afternoon, but there was a thought I just couldn't shake. There were sharp claw marks all over the side door that had broken, which is what you'd expect from a wolf. But the hinge to the door had broken clean off, like someone had kicked it in. Whatever was coming to the stable at night was big, strong, and vicious. I knew the door being able to close wasn't going to stop it much, so I loaded my rifle up and I sat inside with Buck and Graham, my two dogs, and waited for a stir. I woke up a few hours later on the couch. I could hear the horses bucking at the stables. Then I heard a couple loud bangs. It sounded like the side door gave in again. Pumped full of adrenaline, I hopped up and grabbed the gun, clutching it tight. I walked out onto the porch and whistled for the dogs, but something was off. Buck and Graham stood in the doorway, frozen stiff. They looked at me with concern, whimpering at the idea of walking over to the stables. Then I remembered what my pa had said, to stay inside no matter what. But I could hear the horses cry out in fear. I couldn't just leave them to the wolves, so I went out there alone, hoping to prove to my old man that whatever was out there wasn't too much of a problem for me. As I walked over to the stables, I thought of my horses and what had become of them. Laguna, my favorite whitetail, and Longstrider, who certainly lived up to his name. They were family to us, and I told myself that I'd risk my life for them. But I had no idea what monster I'd come face to face with. I finally made it to the door of the stable, which was broken wide open this time. Whatever got in didn't want to be denied. With my heart beating faster than a motor, I pointed the gun inside and slowly worked my way in. It was dark, so I had to listen carefully. The horses had stopped making noises, so I prepared for the worst. Had the wolves gotten to them already? All I could hear was a light grinding sound on the other side of the wall, like flesh being pulled from bone. I was pissed off. I knew the wolf had gotten one of them. Ready to raise all hell, I swung around the corner and pointed the barrel at something I never expected to see in my entire life. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. A wolf the size of a horse, tearing the meat off the bones of not just one, but both of our horses. I shouted to hopefully scare it and shot a bullet right at it. I knew it hit, but the creature didn't move. It was unfazed even. It slowly tilted its head at me, with blood dripping from its enormous mouth, and stared at me with its gray, voided eyes. What I mean is that the creature looked like it had no soul, like it was already dead, or maybe even a demon or something. Petrified, I slowly backed up. I knew I'd have to clear the chamber before I could reload, so I needed to make space between me and, well, whatever the hell this thing was. But then, the creature slowly started walking towards me, its giant paws flopping in the dirt. Step by step it came. I knew I wouldn't get a chance to reload. So many thoughts came across my mind. Is this why Pa wanted me to stay inside? Did he know what we were dealing with? If that was the case, then I wish I would have listened. The creature let out a deep growl as it prowled towards me. I knew I had to run, or else I'd be the very next meal on its menu. But I was afraid of what would happen if I turned around. I had to make a choice. Thinking I was dead either way, I made a run for the house. I sprinted as fast as I could, watching the front door in front of me as my dogs barked on, rooting for me to make it back. I could hear the beast's pace behind me. It was getting closer. I could almost feel its breath at my back when, all of a sudden, it stopped dead in its tracks, just as soon as I reached the porch. I ran inside and slammed the door shut behind me, my dogs barking ferociously at the creature as it stood there, pacing back and forth. We locked eyes one last time, and then I saw something that I will never forget. Somehow, some way, it smiled at me and vanished into thin air, as if the wind had blown it away. I didn't see it again for the rest of the night. I told my folks what had happened when they came back the next day. We called the sheriff out there and made arrangements for our dead horses. I remember telling Dad that the horses saved my life in a way, because I thought the creature was full after eating them. My dad shook his head. That thing wasn't full, he said. Skinwalkers won't step inside a home uninvited. It's why I wanted you to stay inside. Once you got to the porch, that spirit could go no further. Spirit? I asked. He went on to explain to me that skinwalkers are Navajo legend, banished spirits that wander the plains, terrorizing those who still live. They could take any shape, make any voice. He explained that I was lucky to be alive, and damn it, I was. He mentioned that simply talking about a skinwalker will summon it to you. The more you think about them, the more they appear. And he felt it was his fault because, up until they left for Salt Lake City, the possibility of a skinwalker terrorizing his ranch was fresh on his mind. So, we never spoke about it again, and just like that, the creature never returned. So, why tell this story then? Well, it's a warning. Skinwalkers will only come to your door if you want them to. So try not to think about them too much, because if you do, you may find yourself with an unwanted guest outside your house in the dead of night.